Hello, my friends. Welcome to Living in Sync. I'm your host, Joelle Cease, and today I am doing an episode for those of us who are trying to get our whole family eating healthier this year. Last week, I shared a really great episode that has just been a great system for me in helping me answer the question of what's for dinner. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen. But this is for you if you're like, oh my gosh, I've got kids, a spouse that I'm cooking for, and this has just made it a lot more complicated to eat healthier. I've talked about this so many times with my really good friends and even former clients of mine where I'm like, truly, my 20-year-old self thought, like, oh, you just do this X, Y, and Z as a mom, and your kids are going to eat healthier, and your family's just going to eat the meals that you make, and they're just going to eat healthy because you're eating healthy. And like, oh, if I could just go back in time and give my former self that did not have children a little pat on the head, I would. And for those of you who don't know, I am a certified nutritionist. I went to college for dietetics, worked in health and fitness for over a decade. And truly, I have always had a passion for fitness and nutrition. I absolutely love it. And I want this episode to be a gentle reminder for you that like this is something you can implement. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about some mindset shifts right off the bat. But towards the end of this episode, I'm going to go into some really tactical things that work for my family. Not saying these things are going to work for your family, but this is how I really practically implement these things as a mom. Okay. So first, I want you to fully have it in your mind that this is going to be slow and gradual. Just like when I was a health and fitness coach, when I had clients work with me and they were like, okay, I'm just going to start implementing this. Like, I'm going to work on this one thing first. And then once they've established that habit, then they improved upon it. Then they added something else. It led into a domino effect of an entire lifestyle change, but it took one layer at a time. Same with this. I don't want you to overhaul everything all at once. And that leads me to the second piece is take full ownership of this and move in silence. Know that you are doing this for the betterment of the health for your kids right now and in the long term because you're making these lifestyle changes and you're showing up and you're making these changes so they have a healthy relationship with food, that eating normal healthy, when I say normal, I mean whole foods, that eating whole foods is the norm. And it's not about being on a diet or deprivation or weight loss or whatever it is. It's just part of how they've always grown up. My kids will always grow up thinking that bell peppers and carrots with a side of ranch is a very common side to have with dinner because they get served that. The next thing is keeping in mind your food philosophy. Think about how you want yourself and your kids to view food and to view nutrition. And everybody's is going to be different. This is just mine. So yours does not have to be the same as mine. But for me, I'm like, okay, I don't want my kids to see and think that when we have ice cream, it has to be protein ice cream, or that when they can't have Doritos because Doritos are bad and full of toxic poison, and like the Bobby, whoever that Bobby last name guy is, that's like seed oils and blah, 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 all this crap is poisoning you. I'm not in that. I'm very much in the whole foods, protein, produce, really good carbohydrates are going to make us feel good. This is God-made foods. This is what our body is meant to run off of. But like, we can also be okay with coexisting with packaged foods and processed foods, and not every single one of our processed foods has to be the quote unquote packaged healthier alternative, because you guys, that's also becoming a money grab where they're really pre-packaging things, making it look more clean and aesthetic and organic looking, and really it's same but different package, and marketed towards you because you'll pay more of a premium because you are more of a health conscious person. I'm sorry, but you've got to look at the facts. You've got to look at the ingredients if you're comparing that. And then also making the determining factor of like, okay, a packaged food is still a packaged food. That's my philosophy. You don't have to see it the same way I do, but that's just something I really want for my kids, is to see that everything is really just kind of neutral, but we're going to be really honest and real about why we're choosing what we're choosing. Okay. So, to start into the practical tips of this, I want you to know that tip number one, if you solely just think about with each meal that you are serving and giving your kids, looking at the protein and the produce at each meal will already set you at a step ahead. So if you're looking at your family meals or what you're feeding your children and you're like, okay, there's protein and there's produce, and like just know that starting right there can be already big benefits for their health. Okay. The second thing is a little bit of variety goes a long way. So there are certain fruits and vegetables that I know my kids like and that I know my kids do not like, or that one likes and the other dislikes. And there will be some times where I am putting just a piece or just a sliver of something on their plate to consistently make it familiar. And you guys, this is a phrase my kids hear me say all the time. If they complain to me about what it is I'm feeding them, I say to them, it is my job as a mom to give you a well-rounded, healthy meal, and you can choose to eat what you want to eat off of that plate. And really, like, I don't know if they're going to interpret that the way that I want them to. I mean, we as parents, we always just do our best, and how their minds interpret it is up to them. But honestly, like, it truly is. Like, I'm trying to, we had the food guide pyramid back in the day. That was not great. But truly, I kind of like the new way that the government is teaching the plating method, where it's like protein, fruits, vegetables, carbohydrate. Like, I'm really liking that shift. And so I'm viewing making my kids' plate about that same way. And even if I'll give you a micro example, I know one of my kids is not going to eat blackberries, but today I slid 2 blackberries into his lunch to send it to school. And honestly, if you've got a kid that's like going to complain to you about like what it is you're plating for them, put it in the lunchbox and see if it just gets touched or anything like that. And I put it in there and I was just like, the only goal that these blackberries are serving in this little compartment of the lunchbox is familiarity. That's it. Like, that's a win. And will he likely eat them? No. Is there plenty in there that will fill him up that he does like? Yes. And it'll be okay. So a little bit of variety can go a long way. And just don't introduce them to new foods. This is like my nutritionist side coming out when it comes to like picky eaters or introducing new foods to kids, is really like, don't overwhelm them with a new food. Just set it there, let it be neutral, and keep on trying again and again and again and again. The third tip that I have is stop buying the crap on the regular. And this was a tip that I needed to realize for myself, because I was thinking like, oh, I can buy the cookies and the chips and this little fun snacky things, and we can limit ourselves. Well, something I found out about myself is if it's in my pantry, I will eat it. And guess what? I have one child that is also like that. That is like, if it is in there, I want to eat all of it all at once. And so I just had to, I know the foods personally for me and my household that I am not going to buy them frequently. Am I going to buy them never? No, because one of them is salt and vinegar chips, and we love salt and vinegar chips. But if I buy 2 bags for a week, we will eat that those whole 2 bags. If I buy 1 bag for a week, we will eat that entire bag. You know what? If I buy 0 bags for the entire week, we don't eat them because they're not in the house. And like I said, I'm not going to demonize the salt and vinegar chips and never buy them ever again because I love them with my tuna salads, but I'm not going to get it on the regular. It's not going to be a weekly staple that I'm getting anymore because I know for myself and one of my children, like we will eat the entire bag until we get sick. And so you just got to kind of know those things, right? Like stop buying the crap that you can't control yourself with or they can't control themselves with on the regular. 4, keep sides simple. Simplify your sides. If you have regular meals that you make as a family, but you're like, I want to just healthify these a little bit, throw some apple slices down. If you know your kids like carrots, do some carrots and ranch. If you're like, I want them to eat more than just carrots, then give them 5 carrots and 1 little thing of broccoli. Or my kids like bell peppers. One of my kids likes cucumbers. One of my kids is more of a fruit guy. And so I'm just adding just plain produce with dipping sauces on the side to get more vegetable into there. I know there was like this big craze of like adding cauliflower into things, adding pureed veggies into things to getting them to eat more vegetables. And those types of methods work really, really well for like if you've got an extremely picky eater that is not even touching any type of fruit and vegetable. If that is the case, I do want to encourage you that there are really great food therapies for kids. I know a couple of my friends from college that do this as a profession, and they are amazing and they are incredible. And there are healthcare professionals. I would definitely go through like I wouldn't just listen to somebody on the internet. I would go through your pediatrician. I would message, and don't talk about this in front of your child, but like message your pediatrician and really talk to them and then see if they have any dietitians or professionals, medical professionals that are experienced in different types of, you'll call it food therapies or something like that, food exposure therapies. And I have really heard amazing things from people I know. And like I said, I was catching up with a couple of the girls I met in college that do this for a living, and like they're amazing. And it's absolutely a resource that you can lean on if you have a child where you're really concerned about their diet, like their dietary restrictions, or their like quote unquote being a picky eater. Okay. So keeping things really simple and really, really easy, like especially in the summertime. I know I'm recording this and uploading this in the winter, but like don't overcomplicate it when it comes to just like having watermelon and berries on hand all of the time, or carrots and peppers and cucumbers and things like that, where it's like it's just so simple and it's so normal for them to get a serving of protein at each meal. Okay. 5th thing that I have for you is keep the healthy foods they like on hand and stocked. Like every single week, I know I'm buying bell peppers. Every single week, I'm buying carrots. Every single week, I'm buying a boatload of apples. Why? Because I know that those are the foods and the produce that my kids will eat. I know that my kids like ground beef better than ground turkey or chicken breasts or things like that. So I'm making sure I'm stocked up on the nutritious things. I know I maybe said healthy things, but keeping the nutritious things that I know my kids already like on hand and stocked up. I know the type of yogurt that they like that's high in protein. I know the cheese sticks that they like that are higher in protein. Like I know, and I keep them in our pantry and in our fridge and in our freezer on the regular. The next tip is maybe keep my thirds method in mind. And if you followed my podcast for a long time, you're like, oh, here she goes again talking about her thirds method. So for me and the thirds method, it works. I'm sorry, but it's one of those things that's like you establish the habit and then you improve upon it over time. And in my thirds method, when I have a woman come to me and she's like, I know I want to eat healthier, I want to eat high protein, low calorie because I want to see weight loss. The first thing I'm like, okay, we're going to tackle the first third of the day, which is from when you wake up to just before lunchtime. So for kids and for your family, this would be breakfast. I want you to think to yourself, how can I have a nourishing, like good breakfast for my family that'll work for our rhythm and our routine, and have 1 to 3 things on rotation that check these boxes. Okay, so how does this work for me and my family? Number one, my kids still wake up early. So I totally get and understand if you have kids that are rolling out of bed right when you're needing them to get out of the door for school or for you to get to work or whatever, you're going to have to tackle this in a different way. And I'll give some hypotheses. I haven't tried them because that's not my reality. My kids are still up early every single day, but I have ample amount of time from when they are served breakfast at around 7 a.m. to when they get on the bus. So we have, and my best friend, if she's listening to this, is probably laughing because she already knows about the same breakfast that I'm going to say, because I have served this to my firstborn son pretty much ever since he was a toddler and eating solid foods. And there is like 1 to 3 meals I've had in rotation for breakfast, period, because it works and because they like it and because it's nourishing and because it's also really good for saving my sanity when it comes to buying groceries, because you could just buy the same things on repeat or buy the same things in bulk, right? And so I'm not joking when I say this, that my kids' breakfast is often the same, and it always starts with apple and peanut butter. Like, my kids have had an apple for breakfast. Today there were some blackberries in the mix because I'm like, okay, we need to eat these blackberries before, but there was still apples. And same for me. Like, I have an apple with my breakfast pretty much every single day, you guys. So for my kids, it's apples and peanut butter, a protein, and that protein is either yogurt. My best friend is laughing. I already know it. Applegate chicken maple sausage links that I get from Walmart. Don't sell these out. If you start buying these so they don't become available to me, I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to take them out of your freezer because that's how good these are. We love them. A cheese stick and then bacon. And this isn't the healthiest bacon. It is the pre-made pre-cooked bacon from Costco that I just heat up and wham bam. And then some type of carb. And that carb is either toast, frozen waffles, or these cinnamon French toast sticks that I get at Aldi. So you guys, same breakfast on repeat almost always. My kids get apple and peanut butter. And then this morning it was the chicken maple sausages and the cinnamon sticks. Tomorrow, apples and peanut butter, yogurt, toast. Like, it is so rhythm and like so systemized, but then there's also a little bit of variety. And then sometimes one will throw me for a loop and say, Mom, can I have a shake for breakfast this morning? And then with that, it's really easy because it's like protein, peanut butter, milk of choice, produce of choice, throw it all in the blender. And oftentimes I'll do a carb with that too, just so then there's more full satiating. I think it's really important because your digestion starts in your mouth. So if you're not chewing your food, you're not having those enzymes to break down your food, which blah, blah, blah. Anyways, it's just starts so easy. And then once you've established that first meal of the day, which is breakfast for your family, then, start thinking about, if your kids eat school lunches or whatever, then maybe start thinking about dinners. Think about, okay, well, I don't have to stop making the hot dish or the spaghetti or whatever it is that my family likes. It's just like, what could I also give them? I give this example with pizza night because for me growing up, we never just had pizza. It was always pizza and something else, whether it was like pizza and a salad or pizza and some like chopped up vegetables. It was never just pizza. And so when I was like not doing that for myself as an adult, I noticed, oh my gosh, I'm eating like 3 to 4 slices of pizza. But when it was like pizza and Caesar salad and, you know, probably some strawberries or something like that, I was like, oh, we're eating less pizza because we're having more of something else. So it's back to that mentality of eat what you want, add what you need. How can you add what you need to the foods and meals that you're already giving to your family? And I gave you my micro example of breakfast, pizza night. When it comes to, I shared this on my meal, the previous episode from last week, when it comes to a meal like a soup, obviously myself and my husband, we throw down soup. I know that my husband likes a carb with his soup. So there's often like garlic toast or sourdough toast or something like that to go along with it. My kids always can get down with the grilled cheese. So I'll give them a small portion of the soup, grilled cheese, and then some type of produce based off of what we have to go along with that meal. And oftentimes, like sometimes do they eat more produce than they do the soup? Oftentimes, but sometimes they can like sometimes the soup just disappears and I'm like, "Wow, you ate your soup tonight." So, just seeing how I'm not expecting meal times to be perfect. I'm not somebody that's like, highlighting if they ate everything on their plate or what they ate on their plate. Oftentimes when my kids are like, I'm done with dinner, mom. I'm like, okay, is your tummy full? Like I'm trying to bring that awareness of hunger cues when I find my kids in the pantry and I know that they're actually not hungry. I'm like, okay, check your tummy. Are you actually hungry or are you bored? And like I will sit there and have them think about that question. And that's another helpful tidbit. And then the last thing I want to leave you with is like, I don't want you to get over hyper fixated on this because I think that can lead to a really toxic relationship with food. But the last thing is how can you improve the quality of the ingredients of the things you're already getting? If you're getting your kids tube yogurts like Go-Gurts, maybe look around and see, is there any other option that is better than high sugar, low fat, low protein tube yogurts? Like, is there yogurt options that your kids would like? Maybe they're not in a tube, but that are higher protein or maybe made with whole milk, have less sugar, really trying to make some conscious swaps. But like I said, I don't want to get too like crazy about it. One of the things we changed was our pasta. Our kids do like spaghetti and pasta. We have a butter noodle kid, right? And we were like, there's so many additives in some pastas, and there are some that have very simple ingredients. And so we made the swap with something really small like that. We went from Kraft mac and cheese to Goodles. My kids happen to like that. Just really thinking about like what are some simple swaps that I could do to make things a little bit healthier, right? A little bit less sugar, especially paying attention to the added sugar is something that I pay attention to when I try to like look at packaged things and whatnot. But also, once again, I'm not saying you're not going to come over to my house and see a little package of Oreos or a little package of a sweet treat or Nutter Butters or Nutty Buddies because one of my kids really likes those, right? So just different ways of doing things. And I'm going to finish off with where we started in this episode of it being a slow, gradual process and taking full ownership of this in silence. You guys, if you start out this year and you are like, okay, everybody in this house, listen to me. We're going to start eating better. We're getting rid of all of this sugar. You are no longer eating this crap or that crap. They're really not going to want to hop on this train that you're going on. They're really not. So take full ownership of this in silence. Think about your food philosophy, what you want to be the norm for you and your family when it comes to food, how you want to think about food. And like I said, just those little micro things of for me, what I said at the top of this episode is I want my kids to feel like carrots and bell peppers and cucumbers with ranch is a norm for every single day. It's not like a health food. It's not a diet food. It's not something you eat because you can't have Oreos or you can't have this or that. It's just something that we keep in the house that is so normal that we get week over week over week. And that's one of my food philosophies is that whole foods is so like it's just the main thing that we eat, but I'm not preaching this with a megaphone and I'm also not perfect with this, right? Because like sometimes we love making walking tacos and we go have milkshakes that aren't from my Ninja Creamy or whatever it is. Like it doesn't always have to be protein ice cream. We can go get regular ice cream at the Dairy Queen, whatever it is. So, and that's just me. I know that some people have to make modifications like saying, I cannot have food dye in this house because of da 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 da, and everybody has their reasons. And I'm here to say, like, also take full ownership of that and move in silence. Like, refer back to the the hot tip number 3 of stop buying the crap on the regular, because I know I've been guilty of that, walking through the grocery store thinking like, oh my gosh, I can just get that and we could have a little bit of this with that, and it's like, no, I just have to not have it in the house. If we have it on special occasions or whatever, that's fine, but like it just cannot be stocked or myself or one of somebody's gonna eat it, right? That's my husband. If I start buying Ben and Jerry's ice cream, if we have it, he will eat the entire thing. If it is not in the house, then it's like, oh, whatever, you know? So I hope this episode was helpful to you. I am here to say this is for just entertainment purposes only. If you are really struggling with a picky eater that you are concerned about, talk to your pediatrician about it. And I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks for listening. Bye.